Well, I think I'm pretty safe to start. I'm sure there'll be some other people jumping on. But thank you all for coming on time, for having your cameras on. So today we're going to talk about, I don't know if you saw it on the Facebook group, but we're going to talk about reaching your full potential. One of the very cool things about this business is that your potential is really limitless, right? Like, you are the CEO of your business. You're in charge of what happens in your business, and you decide how many people you serve, how much money you make, how you run your business, how you use your time and energy. It's all your choice, which means that the sky's the limit, which for me was very appealing when I started in this business. I got real sick of people telling me where they thought I should stay, or where they thought I shouldn't go, or what they thought I was doing well and didn't need to keep doing other things. I got really sick of people limiting me. And so that's one of the reasons I really love this business. And it really, truly is limitless what you can do. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, we're going to do a little visualization. We're going to talk about what holds us back from reaching our full potential, because I think it's important to acknowledge those things and be aware that those are really typical, really common, not something to be embarrassed by or give yourself a hard time about, because everybody experiences that. And it's, you know, a good part of overcoming those things is to just recognize them. And then we're going to talk about, how do I reach my full potential? What are the 3 things that you can really use, focus on, develop, work on every day to help you reach your full potential? So, ready to get started? Awesome. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is close your eyes and take some deep breaths. It's been a stressful year. It's a stressful day. There's lots going on. We're just going to let go of all of that and focus on yourself. I want you to think about, if you knew you could not fail, if you knew you couldn't fail, it was not even an option. If money was no object, it did not matter what anything cost. If your current circumstances did not apply, and boy, is that an important one to think about right now. Your current circumstances did not apply, and your key relationships supported you. The important people in your life had your back. What would you do? What would you do? You couldn't fail, money was no object, your current circumstances didn't apply, and the important people in your life supported you. What would you do? And specifically, what would you do in your current position with this real estate opportunity in front of you? So maybe your what would you do is bigger than that, but bring it down to this level. What would you do in this position? How would you use this opportunity to reach your full potential? Think really big, really big. And write a couple things down. No judgment. No, this will never happen. Just write them down. Think really big. You can't fail. Money is no object. The current circumstances do not apply, and the important people in your life support you. This can be now, this can be in 10 years, this can be in 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. You might not know how long it would take, but if there was no limits, what would you do? I'll give you a couple more minutes to write those things down. It's hard to think this big sometimes, so just like let your mind go. I love this exercise. It's really fun. Okay. Looks like everybody's still writing, so I'll give you a little bit more time. And this can be stream of consciousness, it could apply to anything. How you live your life, where you live, what you're doing with your time, how you're impacting your community, what your business looks like, how much money you make, what you do with it. Okay, so I want you to hang on to those. I want you to put that somewhere where you can see it regularly. And if you are a visual person, this would be a great guide to use when you put together your vision board. You can use these things to kind of build off of. So sometimes you just need to give yourself a moment to completely disconnect from your situation you're in right now and think really big. Give yourself that freedom. Because sometimes we need something much bigger than we think we can achieve realistically in our current circumstances, or much bigger than we think we could afford to make happen, or much bigger than we think we could handle getting to without failure, right? So having that opportunity to give your mind a chance to just really go big is important. Do it once in a while. It's a really good exercise. So hang on to that. And now I want you to picture, well, I'm sure you've all gone through this, at least in elementary school. So what happens when you start out with a caterpillar and it works its way into a chrysalis? That's when it dies. It's over. There's nothing more. What happens next?
Are you saying what happens between that time frame? Are you talking about the transformation piece?
Yeah. So once a caterpillar goes into a chrysalis, then what does it become? Is that the end of its life, or is there more to it?
Obviously, there's more to it. The butterfly.
Yeah.
How's a
It becomes
butterfly?
a butterfly. Yes. Now that process is not so simple, right? So this caterpillar goes into a chrysalis. That process takes a little bit of time. Has anybody ever had a caterpillar and like watched it go through the process? Or kind of done that in school maybe? You've seen the pictures. So it's a process. It goes from this like happy little caterpillar life, it eats and eats and eats, and then it goes into a greater purpose, right? But there's a process. It's not real pretty. It takes time. It goes to a point where it's basically hibernating, right? Like it's practically dead. And then while it's in there, it's spending all this time working towards its greater purpose, becoming this butterfly, right? So all of its systems are putting in all this time and energy and effort in while it's hiding in this chrysalis. Nobody can see what's happening. It's just doing this on its own behind the scenes to make it happen. And then when it gets to the point of ready to come out as a butterfly, the struggle to get out of that chrysalis, the muscles that are building while it's trying to push its way out are the muscles that make it fly when it becomes a butterfly. It's a process, right? It's not instant. And not everybody can see what's happening, and not everybody understands what's happening. And it's not always pretty, and it's not easy. But the end result is amazing, right? Who would think this fuzzy little caterpillar, this squishy little bug could become this gorgeous flying creature? So think of yourself in that way, right? Like you're all kind of caterpillars right now in the process of life, in this business. Everybody's chrysalis time is different, right? And everybody's result of what they're going for is different. And it really doesn't matter what somebody else wants as their big, what would you do? It's what matters is yours, because you're the one that's going to be in that chrysalis working through it, right? So what holds us back from reaching our full potential? I am sure you've come across these things before in your life, or even just in this business. There are really four things I think that we could name as being kind of the main things that hold us back from reaching our full potential. There's lots of other things, and there's things that fall underneath these categories, but I think the first one that I think everybody can relate to in some capacity is fear, right? Fear makes us freeze. Fear, what I find interesting, and studies have shown this, is that a higher percentage of people are afraid of success than they are of failure. I'm going to say that again. A higher percentage of people, tremendously higher percentage of people, are more afraid of success than they are of failure. Are you surprised by that? When you really think about it, when you think about that, whatever that success means to you, do you feel a little frozen? Do you feel a little bit afraid of like, oh God, what is it going to take? What's it going to be like when I get there? Are my friends going to not like me? Am I, then what do I do? What if I get there and it's not as satisfying as I thought it would be, right? There's all kinds of concerns around success, which seems crazy, but when you're really working at it, when you're really focusing on it, that can be scary. And the way that it comes out is procrastination. Has anybody else gotten in this position? You're like, I'm on the cusp of something awesome. I'm studying to get my license and I just can't get myself to sit down and do it and I don't know why. Or I've got this lead on a great piece of business with this lovely person and I just can't get myself to call them. I'm in that right now. I have $1 million buyer and I cannot get myself to call them. It sounds ridiculous, but it is true. It comes up. It's not like you're going to overcome this once and that's it. That fear of success is a real thing and it's going to come back. And it's just a matter of being aware of when that's happening and why, instead of giving myself a really hard time about procrastinating and basically stopping myself from being productive in anything. I have to recognize this is fear. I have got to figure out a way to get over this. This is fear of success, which is a good thing. Success is a good thing. How can I get my mindset right to overcome that? So fear is a really big one that has a stronghold, especially on us this year, right? There's just a lot of anxiety and fear in general. But that fear of success coming out as procrastination, I think, is an important thing to recognize, because it's very easy when you start to procrastinate on a lot of things or to feel confused. And then when you finally find something that's going to work, it's hard to like get into it, right? The next thing is an absence of goals. So by that, I mainly mean having your goals really thought out and written down. So an absence of goals can just, it means you're kind of wandering lost, right? How are you going to reach your full potential if you don't even know what you're trying to reach? If your goal is big, great, let's work backwards from that and set up some smaller goals, some more attainable goals, some measurable goals, some things that can be broken down into action. And it's really key, time and again, studies show, having your goals written down. If it's on your phone, if it's on a piece of paper, if it's on something you stick on your wall, whatever it is, having your goals written down, thoughtfully put together, is going to make a difference. And I know I talk about goals a lot, but I'm living proof this stuff works. So having your goals written down makes a difference. If you don't, it's very easy to get lost. It's very easy to get off track. Is there anybody here who was in sports at any point in their lives? Did you have some goals for whatever sport you were in? Whether it was, most 3-point shots or the fastest 100-meter dash. Were those goals motivating to you as you were working and training and practicing? And you had that in your mind, right? That was the goal. It seemed very simple and clear. Nothing could get in your way. This is why I'm doing this. It's the same thing with really anything in life, right? It doesn't just have to be business. It can be anything related to your life. These big ideas of if nothing could, if I couldn't fail, if nothing was getting in my way, those things can be broken down into attainable goals, into smaller points within your life where you can celebrate getting towards that goal. So having your goals written down, having them visible putting them together thoughtfully. If you know the SMART goals system, right, they need to be measurable and specific, attainable, but a little bit out of reach. Something that's going to push you, and look at those regularly. Really remind yourself, what am I supposed to be doing today? Okay, well, this is my goal. And what's that first small little domino I should be focusing on that's going to knock down the other dominoes? What's the one thing I could be doing right now that would make everything else easier or unnecessary to getting me to that goal? The one thing I could do. Having those goals in place makes a huge difference. And if you don't, it can really hold you back, right? You just get lost. You don't know how you're using your time. Suddenly months have gone by. What am I even doing? What am I trying to do here? Number 3 is isolation. And I think this happens in an extreme way right now. Nobody succeeds alone, and people need interaction. Even if you're more of an introvert, at some point we need some kind of support, interaction, network, resources. We need each other. Nobody succeeds alone. Nobody. So having the opposite of isolation is plugging into the community you have. You have a community right here through lunch. You have a community through our office, right? We have 200 extremely productive agents who are full of great information, who are supportive and encouraging. You have a great community right here. It's hard to know that if you're just starting and if you haven't been physically in the office, right? It's difficult to know what it's like. But I assure you, the support of the community is something you'll feel when we have our Tuesday meetings. That's a good time to kind of plug into that. Coming to these, connecting with each other through Facebook, really plugging into the classes we offer, to the different opportunities you have, to the people in the office. That is one thing you can do to help avoid that isolation. And you're plugging in and connecting with people who have a similar mindset, right? One of the things here at Keller Williams that we do focus on is think big, dream big, live a big life, and have a great business. So this is an awesome opportunity for you to connect with some people and not feel isolated. And also, sometimes you just need to lean on each other and say, do you know what you're doing? Because I don't. And I just need that reassurance that we're not perfect. So leaning on each other within the program, I think, is also great. We have the helpline, we have coaches here, but also having each other to kind of work through where you are with things, I think can help too. So rely on each other, connect. Isolation is non-productive. Nobody's like, I'm gonna hunker down and just like kill it by myself. That doesn't happen. You'll burn out pretty quick. So use those resources. Lean on your family, your friends, the people who are important to you, right? When you're dreaming big at the beginning, we talked about what would you do if the important people in your life supported what you were doing. Who are those people? Make sure you're connecting with those people. If you're not a phone person, you're not a Zoom person, text them. Facebook, Instagram, however you can to feel like you've got that connection. It's important. And the fourth one, so I kind of based this on a podcast by Brian Buffini. Brian Buffini is a real estate coach. He owns a real estate coaching company. He was an agent. They have a great podcast. He's a really excellent speaker. He's got quite a business, all built around coaching real estate agents and small business owners. His podcast is great. It's called The Brian Buffini Show. But this one, those 3 items were the things that he thought were what holds us back: fear, absence of goals, and isolation. But I have to add a 4th. And I think especially this year, it's really applicable, and it's environment. And I've talked about this before. One of our classes, we talked about setting yourself up for success in your physical environment. I think this is physical environment and also just sort of the world we live in. And that can really hold people back, right? Like, so some people are born less fortunate or more fortunate. Some people have an environment that seems hopeless or less encouraging. Don't have role models of people who have really, really found success and happiness, right? So that environment that you're in, whether it's your immediate physical environment, your office, how your space is set up where you work, if it's your home, if it's your neighborhood, if it's where you're spending most of your time, if that's not supporting your goals, how can you find or create a place where you do feel like your goals are supported and possible, limitless, right? If you put an acorn in a tiny little pot, is it ever going to become a big oak tree? No, it's going to hit the edge of the pot and be like, oh, I guess this is my life, this little pot. If you put it out in a big yard with other oak trees, what's going to happen? It's going to become a huge, awesome oak tree, right? So find your big open yard, find your other oak trees, figure out a way to set up your environment, even if it's just by having a vision board in your space, having motivational quotes, building your day so that you can take a walk somewhere where there's big, gorgeous homes that you want to own one day. Put yourself in an environment within the safety precautions of our current circumstances that support your goals and help you dream big. So environment, I think, is a big one. So how do we get to the point of reaching your full potential or even exceeding your full potential? What are the three main things we have to think about? And I've talked about these in bits and pieces in different forms. There's nothing new under the sun, guys. These things are reiterated in different forms and shared in a more focused way. This is kind of an overview, but there are some more specifics in some of the other classes I've taught. And there's a lot of great information out there, great books and podcasts I'm happy to recommend. But essentially, here are the three things I think really encompass what you'll need to reach your full potential. The first one is your mindset, right? What's driving you, where you're at in your head every day. That doesn't mean it has to be perfect all the time, but mindset is huge. I cannot tell you how big this is. You can have somebody with every opportunity laid out in front of them on a silver platter. If their mindset is not right, they will not be successful. How many celebrities have you seen who blow up and they're killing it and they're amazing and they're perfect and they still crash and burn? Their mindset is off. Mindset's huge. The second one is motivation. And the third one is your methodologies. So mindset, motivation, methodologies. There's other words you can use to describe these, but so let's talk about mindset. So this is, to some extent, this is simply your confidence and belief in yourself, right? If you're going to dream really big, who's the most important person who has to be convinced that this can happen? It's you, right? Who's crawling in that chrysalis? It's not your parents, it's not your best friend, it's not me, it's you. You have to believe that on the other end of this process, which could be ugly at times, you're going to be a gorgeous giant flying butterfly, right? So having your mindset that you are going to make this happen, even if it's not perfect every day, it's going to waver. There will be days when you're like, what am I even doing? Right? But get yourself to that point as best you can. And the way to do that is to really be aware of where you're at every day, right? Taking a moment for some clear space, whether that's meditating in the morning or at some point during the day, whether it's going for a walk, doing something where you're not staring at a screen, you're not running through all the things you need to do today or the mistakes you've made or the things you feel bad about. just giving yourself a little clear-headed moment to focus back on, why do I believe I can do this? What is my motivation? Just getting your mind right is so important. Physical activity can help that, right? Exercise, going for a walk, stretching, yoga, um, a little love from the people around you in your safe bubble. So, like a hug, a little pat on the back, those little things sometimes can really help. My poor husband often has me saying, "Can I just have a hug?" Having an opportunity for some creativity can free up your mind a little bit, whether that's, drawing, just visualizing something really awesome. For some people, it's cooking or baking, dancing. Just turn on your favorite song and flail around. Maybe sing in the shower. Those sorts of things can kind of shake up that repetitive track of negativity, get you out of that loop, and help you move on. So your mindset is huge. And, there's much more to that. Last week I talked about, your ability to bounce back from setbacks. That's all part of mindset. Building up that tolerance, building up that grit, being able to bounce back sooner, approaching things with curiosity instead of judgment. Ah, shoot, I got knocked down again. Okay, well, I'm not going to give myself a hard time. Let's look at this. What caused it? How can I pick myself back up? Use those resources, lean on each other. And also gratitude. I think at the end of the day, if I've had a terrible day or a terrible week or a terrible year, if I can focus on the things I'm thankful for, if I can just take a few minutes to write down some things I'm grateful for, to have a moment of gratitude, while you're happy and content and appreciative of something, it's really hard to also be super negative, right? If you can get your mind trained to do that daily, awesome. Morning and evening, fabulous. But getting yourself into that routine can really help your mindset. There's small, simple things. This is not rocket science, but it's about being thoughtful and consistent, really purposeful with your time. And it doesn't take a lot of time, but it makes a difference. And man, when you haven't, you'll know, oh shoot, whatever just happened really knocked me on my butt. I got to reset. I haven't done gratitude in 3 days. I haven't exercised in 2 weeks. I really haven't gotten my mind right. This is a good reminder. I'm going to get back on track. Motivation. So the best way to explain this is your big why. Has everybody heard about the big why? If you're a Simon Sinek fan, he has a book all about it. There's a couple of great YouTube videos about it with him. So understanding your why can be a real challenge. I think that exercise at the beginning where we're thinking really big, some of your why should have come out in that somehow. There should be some pieces to it. It might just be spelled right out, but your motivation, when you are at the depths of your chrysalis moment, stuff is hard, everything requires so much energy, the results are a long ways away. What is pushing you to keep going? What's your why? For some people, it's their kids and their family. For some people, it's to never be in a negative financial situation because of how stressful that is. For some people, it's to be able to give their loved ones wonderful experiences, to be able to support their community, to make a difference financially through donations or use of their time. Whatever your big why is, that is worth giving yourself a really good, solid, uninterrupted thinking time. And if you don't yet know what really drives you, this should be the thing that when you talk about it, you tear up, you feel your heart in your throat. This is your purpose. This is your big drive. This is the thing that you will claw yourself up that hill to make happen. It's got to be really motivating. So if you don't yet know what that is, give yourself some time to really brainstorm about what's important, about what really drives you. It's very, very helpful to have that in mind, especially when you're in the depths of the darkest moments in your chrysalis. It's really helpful. So it's worth taking the time to figure that out. And that is very motivating. It also gives you some good momentum. And momentum is something I talk about a lot. It's something my coach talked about a lot when I started in real estate. Having momentum is so important, right? Like there are times when you're going to be tired, there's a lot going on, when the world's throwing things at you, when you have very needy clients or a frustrating co-broke to work with, and you need momentum to get you through those moments, right? You can't constantly be trudging and pulling and trudging and pulling without having a little bit of momentum to keep you going, right? Like you've got a big hill to climb. You got to break out of that chrysalis. So having momentum is key. And if you've got a big driving force, a big why behind it, that's really going to motivate you and it's going to help you get some momentum. Just gaining that momentum as you go. So the third thing is methodologies. And I could talk about this forever. This is one of my favorite things. It's systems and it's routines. Systems and routines, your methodologies. How do you achieve this greatness? Systems and routines. So routines could also be seen as habits. We've had a class about that before. Habits are so important. Talk about momentum. If you can autopilot some of this stuff. I get up every day at 6. I don't want to be up. I'm not an early morning person naturally, but I have become one. I get up at 6. I roll out of bed. I chug a glass of water. I do yoga. I do my meditation, and then I can be a person for the day. It's a habit. It's a routine. I just do it automatically. If I had to think about it, it probably wouldn't happen, honestly. And it sets a path of least resistance. Great. One less thing I have to try to do, right? So having those routines and habits is really huge. You already have routines and habits. How many people brush their teeth? I really hope everybody's raising their hand. Right? That's a routine. That's a routine. And if you have a really hard time starting a new routine or habit, chain it to something you already do. So for me, it's every morning I get up and chug a glass of water no matter what, because I'm always thirsty. Okay, so while I'm doing that, I'm starting up my yoga video because that's the first little domino to getting me to go to that mat and do that. So chain it to something you already do. While you're brushing your teeth, do your gratitude, right? It takes a little while. You can't talk. You're staring at yourself, your beautiful self in the mirror. Do your gratitude or do your affirmations. Take that time to think about your goals. Just tie it to something you already do. It makes it so much easier. So building those routines and habits is really important. And the key to that, I have to say, is don't try to do a whole bunch of them at once. It's really easy to fall into wanting like that instant gratification, right? But like, what happens if you cut open the chrysalis too early? You don't have a butterfly. It's not good news. So you've got to keep that delayed gratitude or that delayed gratification in mind. Keep that, it's little steps one in front of the other. So start with something small, build that up. Takes about 66 days on average to build a routine or a habit, and then add something to it. And celebrate that you've established that, even if it's small, because it takes a tiny domino to knock over the next one and the next one and the next one. 57 dominoes down, you're the distance from the earth to the moon. 57, that's it. 18, it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It does not take much to get you to that point. So start with something small, manageable, and then be proud of yourself for doing it. Systems. This is a lot, right? This is where you are right now. You're a new agent. You're trying to figure out how this stuff all works. You don't even know what system to put in place because you're not even sure all the steps of the process, right? I've been there. I've totally been there. And there are still times when I'm like, oh, this is a new thing. I guess I'm gonna have to adjust my system. Know that there are systems available to you already, right? We have great stuff in Command. You can set up your buyer consultation based on something that's already in there. You can set up your listing presentation based on something that's already in Command. There's some great resources out there through Keller Williams. There's videos on our YouTube page between myself and Janine where we've talked about the kinds of systems you can set up. And you automatically have a system in place for managing your contacts, which is huge, right? It's all about these relationships. It's all about building your community of clients and potential clients. So having Command in place, that's a system that's already there for you, and it's so awesome. I cannot tell you how awesome it is. I cannot tell you how awesome it's going to be. The things that I've used and changed and adjusted and made up myself that I did not have something like this when I started, and it's amazing. So you've got some systems already available to you, and just know that some of these things are going to start out, you know, in phase 1 and then adjust as you go. So there are going to be times when, when you're going to have to change those things. And that's okay. They're never going to be perfect. And honestly, everything changes, and real estate is no exception, right? MLS changes, the system, the technology we have changes. A freaking pandemic happens and you got to adjust, right? So be ready for change. Don't think that a system means you're set in your ways, but know that once you have something in place, it's going to make your life easier. So whether you plug into a team, you plug into what's available through Keller Williams, you kind of create your own systems. It's important to have those, right? We have to do a lot. Are you to that point of realizing like, oh my God, real estate agents do a lot of things? It's not just opening doors, handing keys over. Yeah, it's a lot. So putting those systems in place is absolutely key. The only way I'm able to help as many people as I can in a quality way is because I have systems in place. I only got an assistant up to full-time this year. Up until this year, I've been doing contract to close entirely myself. 45 closings last year, 44 the year before. This year, 75. Why? Because I have a system in place with my assistant. It's the only way I can handle that kind of business and take care of people in a quality way. It's important. So systems are boring for some people, they're exciting for other people, but at the end of the day, they're necessary. So using what's already there, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Get a little creative with what's there in front of you. If you have not read the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, if you don't have that book, get it. There are systems in there. It's wonderful. Everybody talks about that book. What's up with that book? And everybody at Keller Williams, well, guess what? There's a good reason. The people who have really been successful are most often using what's in there, and it's right there, all laid out for you. So putting systems in place is super important. So just to review, reaching your full potential. It's really thinking limitless, right? Thinking big. What's your big life? What's that amazing thing that if there were no limitations, you would want to achieve? You could picture yourself being or doing. Keep that in mind. Remember that everybody's going to experience those things that hold them back. We all do, and it's not like you overcome it once and that's it, right? You're not like smelly today, you take a shower and then you're good the rest of your life, right? You got to bathe every day. You got to brush your teeth every day. You got to get your hair cut once in a while. Like things need to continuously happen to make you better. You want to get stronger? What do you deadlift once and then you're done? No, you keep working out. This is a constant exercise. So there will be times when these challenges pop up and they kind of sneak up on you, and you've got to kind of check yourself, recognize it's there, don't waste your time judging or giving yourself a hard time. Just figure out what you're going to do next. Come from curiosity. So overcome that fear, especially the fear of success. And if you're procrastinating, there's a good chance that that's why. If you don't have goals written down, if you haven't truly taken the time to think about that, what do you want things to look like a year from now? What do you want things to look like 3 years from now? What about 5? Where do you want your business to be? How do you want to spend your time? Where do you want to be living? How much money do you want to make? All those things. Give yourself thinking time. It's important. Write them down and keep them somewhere visible. Check back on them and measure where you are relative to that goal. And just remember, you've got to take little steps. Start with that first little domino to get to the next and the next. You can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? And remember not to isolate. Nobody's successful alone. So use your resources, connect with each other, lean on your family, involve them in your goals so that you have their support. It's important. And make sure you've got a good supportive environment. And if you need to get out of your current environment, how can you do that? Can I take myself to the office every morning here at Keller Williams? Can I, go for a walk in nature? How can I change that to keep me from feeling like I'm off track? And how do you get there? Get your mind right. It's all connected, right? Mindset, your motivation is huge. Know your why. If you don't, or if you feel like it's changed, it's not pushing you like it used to, go back and revisit it. There's nothing wrong with that. As your life changes, so may your why. So may your big goals. It's good to revisit those things at least once a year, maybe even once a month or a quarter. Giving yourself thinking time is huge. It's the working on your business. It's the big thing that really successful people do that seems so simple and maybe even self-indulgent. It's so important. Taking that time to really reflect, to reset, to check in on yourself, to approach with curiosity, to take some time to celebrate and be grateful. Those things are huge, super important. And then those methodologies, which may be exciting for you or it may be super boring. But either way, you can only do so much as a human being. We all have the same amount of time, right? You've got to manage your energy. You have other things outside of work, and that's important. You want to be available and present outside of work. And so putting systems in place, having those habits and routines is going to allow you the freedom of your energy and time to do other things. So that is also a big task in and of itself, but there's good resources for you here. So those are the keys. Those are the main things. Are there other small pieces to that? Of course. Could there be other things added to it? Absolutely. But when it comes down to it, I think those are the main guides that you can come back to if you're feeling like you're off track or you need to refocus. What can I pull from this list that I feel like is a challenge for me right now? So we've got a little bit of time. I'm curious to hear what's one aha or one thing you're going to take from today that you're going to put into practice this week. Can be very small. No, I gave you a lot.
Really just figuring out what my goals are and writing them down and figuring out how to get to them.
Awesome. And there is a video from our launch class about setting up your 411, your G based on your goals. It's a good one to go back to. There's also some great podcasts about goals out there too. The One Thing is a good one. Also, Focus on This can be helpful. It's kind of how to break it down in like a planner format. So there's some good ones out there. That's great, Avi. Give yourself some good time to do that. I like that. Who else?
I think for me, kind of what Avi said about goals, slash the mindset. I think last year, month when we did have that class, I set a really hefty, unrealistic list of things I thought I could accomplish, especially because I am still staying at my job. So when we're talking about what holds people back, I'm like my normal job. But I want to like succeed in the part-time time that I have to offer. So I think just kind of like not getting upset with me not meeting those goals last month, and then being really reasonable about what I can do this month. And now that I really know how to manage my time better.
Awesome. And setting up accountability with me.
Yes.
So I can help you stay on track.
Do that again.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Reagan.
I'll talk to you.
Who else? I'm gonna check the chat here. So Focus on This is it's a planner system through Michael Hyatt and company, but there's a podcast called Focus on This. The full Focus planner is the planner. Focus on This is the podcast.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Planner is totally worth it. I just wanted to say. The
Did
planner,
you start using it?
yeah, I use it every day. And like I use it for not just real estate stuff too, and like every area of my life that I have applied it to, it has just, yeah, I don't know, really, really been helpful. Yeah, especially the gratitude and mindset. It like the planner makes you take time to look back at what you did, what you succeeded at, what you liked, and then make a change after that fact. So yeah, I recommend it for sure. Not to jump on the Michael Hyatt bandwagon, but I'm on it.
Cool. Well, and for anybody who's wondering what that's about, it really, a lot of these planners are the same. I've used a ton of different planners, but what it comes down to is it's focusing on your top most important 1 to 3 items for the day. It's giving your time to reflect at the end of the day and also at the end of the week to reflect on last week and to plan the upcoming week. So it's a habit to build. It's also a system. Yeah. So if you want to know more about planners, I'm happy to chat about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of retiring from one profession and making the transition in between two. And, you know, I got through the exam 2 weeks ago. So I'm brand new.
Great.
Brand new out of the package. And so I want to tap into a group or tap into some sort of mentoring system, because I'm learning the practical applications of or learning the business. Let's put it that way. You know, I think then I didn't have any problems with the knowledge portion of it, getting through the exam and all that kind of stuff. Now it's learning the business. So I need some tips on how to go about doing that and how to manage like the transition between the two professions. Does that make sense?
Well, I think, yeah. So Thomas, what I would recommend, and I think some people here can speak to this as well, the resources available to you in terms of how to go about the business are very much at this point in time through our YouTube channel. So classes with me, launch program, and classes with Janine Werner, which is the productivity coaching. There's some really good bits and pieces in all of those. Also, there's a series of classes called Ignite, and that's for new agents, and it really spells out every piece of how you're putting your business together and running it. And that is just wrapping up, but there's a new one starting in January. So that one can be really helpful as well. And there's some information from that does get folded into our classes that are on the YouTube channel. But if there's anything specific in there, and there are some people here who have taken the class as well. Let's see. Nia said that you did the class recently, or you're in Ignite, right?
Yep. So I just finished Ignite and it was very, very helpful. I mean, it did do this broad spectrum kind of where it touched upon literally from the beginning, the mindset piece all the way to, you know, the closing piece. So, you know, whether it's a listing presentation, buyer, consultation, all those pieces, how to find buyers, that type of thing. So lead generation. So they did, and it was awesome hearing from all the different, almost like subject matter experts, just people who are really successful at that part of the business and what kind of systems they've put into place to be successful in that way. So like the Nicollet Group and how, successful they are with maybe listing presentations, or, Peter Gossman and how he's, with lead gen in his first year and how he's just really rocking out. So it was very helpful. I think that it's worth attending for sure, especially as a new agent, because you start to get information that like, okay, cool. Now I see the big picture. I see how I can do these pieces and all the pieces that are involved.
Did you get a chance to shadow anybody in this process of being able to be out in the field and actually watching somebody go through the process of the various components?
Yeah. So Thomas, I completely can relate to that. I did not, but what I've been doing is honestly, I've been emailing people. I've been emailing agents who I just felt, that would be good to connect with. And that is something that I just finished Ignite Monday. So that's one of the things that's on my to-do list, is to connect with an agent and to say, hey, can I just be a fly on the wall? Can I just watch you go through the process? So that I can have reassurance that I'm doing things and I'm not missing anything. So I would recommend it. They don't offer it through Ignite, but they do encourage you to reach out to people. So I would just reach out to successful agents and just say, hey, would you mind? Can I buy you a coffee? Or do you mind if I just tag along to a listing appointment? And I think that would work.
Yeah, it's funny. And being years ago, I was in the brokerage business. And during the 90s, I was in the mortgage business. And both times I went out with a manager and sat down and actually just the fly on the wall kind of thing and just watched. Went out with a couple of different people. So you kind of get a sense of, where
like
you.
What to expect.
Yeah. What's going to work for you and what style you might have versus someone else, kind of thing.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I completely relate to that. Absolutely. I think that, and it provides a little bit of comfort too. For me, it's a comfort thing. Like, okay, so here's what people are doing, and I can kind of follow along and kind of match that while I'm building my own systems.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you for the advice. It's good advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and I can tell you that the culture we have here within Keller Williams and within our office very much supports that. If there's somebody that you really appreciate how they're doing their business and you reach out directly to say, hey, I just think you're doing a great job and I am new and I'm curious how you do this one thing. Would it be possible for me to shadow you at an open house? Or would we be able to just like chat for a little while? I have some questions. Most people are very willing to do that. So, and right now tends to be a little bit better time because it's not quite as crazy as spring.
Gotcha.
So I encourage you. Very few people do that, and it can really be worthwhile. So if just reaching out to people directly, whether it's go on MLS, figure out who's working in the area where you want to be in our office and reach out to them, whether it's seeing who taught the Ignite classes and maybe connecting with them through that. On the Facebook group, if you ask a question, who would be my best resource for this, you'll get responses from people. It's incredible how open and willing to share people are.
That's great. Like I said, I'm just learning all the systems right now. I'm wading through the massive emails that I've gotten, and it's almost overwhelming in a lot of ways at first. And so, learning who to talk to and who might have that expertise is, I guess, part of my next. It's on my to-do list, and it's a goal to try to break into the community. You know what I mean? That's why I want to come to these meetings. The Thursday meetings, somebody recommended the Thursday meetings, but that's the one day that I'm working from home in my other profession. And it's the one day I have to be on campus. So Thursdays, I know there's a startup class that happens on Thursdays.
Yeah, so Productivity with Janine is on Thursdays at 9. If anybody has not gone to those or watched those, go to the YouTube channel. They're all on there. She has some awesome content.
Yeah, because Thursdays I can't make. That's the one day I have to be on campus. So
yeah, so you can actually go back and watch those after the fact.
That's great.
And that would be very worth your time.
Super. Thank you for the advice.
And for those of you who haven't, yeah, you're welcome. For those of you who haven't been on the YouTube channel in a little while, so everything's set up in different categories. So like the contract classes with Kimmy have their own section, launch classes have their own section, productivity. And we now have launch and productivity labeled with what we're talking about in each class. So it's easier to go back if you're like, what, I need help with X. Okay, I can find it instead of having to like figure it out every time. So, and if there's any in there that would like to have labeled or have any feedback on how that's organized, let us know. Mandy runs that and has done an awesome job. And we've had help from our leadership team watching the videos and then labeling everything. So it takes a little while, but that is an awesome library of resources. Just awesome.
Is that one channel with several subdivisions, or are they all separate channels?
No, it's just our KW
Right.
Milwaukee North Shore channel.
And then there's sub-sorted underneath that. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's a very good place to go, especially if you have like off business hours time when you want to look at, look into certain things. That's a good place to go. And of course, you can always reach out on the Facebook group. Hey, I have a question about this. Any recommendations of where I could go for that? And then we have our launch group, which is kind of our, our bubble of launch people and coaches. So that's always a place you can go to.
Yeah,
it's overwhelming in terms of what needs to be done and also in terms of the resources there. So sometimes you just got to ask, and that's okay.
And I think that's the big part of it. Amanda, you said something. You said, hey, there's so many systems available to you already. Take those and then adjust them as you move forward. And then also understand and realize that the first couple of things, they're not going to be perfect. You're not, so my expectations are sky high and, in terms of, making sure that a client is happy. And, but knowing that to give myself some room there to improve, is going to be useful.
Oh yeah. And this is never perfect, right? Like the impression is, if you've been in the office for a little while, you see those top 10 lists go up every month and it's like, oh my God, they have it all figured out. They're perfect. Well, I can assure you, I do not. I have things in place. I'm going to do everything I can to take great care of my people, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that isn't even close to where I want it to be. There's a whole bunch of stuff I've yet to learn and change and grow from and adjust, and stuff that scares me and stuff that I don't feel like I have a handle on. But the important things that I do is I understand the contracts. I know how to protect my clients. I'm working in their best interest. And that's where everything stems from. How I have my Facebook set up, or my website, or my logo, or how I do my open houses, like all that stuff can always be improved and changed and adjusted, but it's not the most important thing about what I do. What's most important is where are my leads coming from and how am I servicing them, developing those relationships, serving my clients at the highest level possible so that they have a great experience, refer their friends and family to me, and come back and work with me again, and do a quality job. I want to be a professional about this. The rest of it is details. The rest of it is just extra fluff. You'll get there, you'll find your niche, you'll focus more on one thing or the other, but it's never going to be perfect. So really getting a grasp of what is most important is the very basic tasks of your job. Know those contracts, understand the step-by-step process, help walk your clients through it, and know how to get more business. Those are the main pieces. Everything else is details and of varying degrees of importance. Everybody finds the thing that they really latch on to, and that's okay. It's always exciting. There's always things to learn. Come from curiosity. Cool. Well, this was a great discussion. I really appreciate your interacting, having your cameras on, taking notes, all that good stuff. I hope that you walk away from this and put something into practice. Just pick one thing. Don't go crazy. Don't make yourself a list of 10 things that have to be done by tomorrow. Just pick one thing that you're going to try and stick with. Consistency is a really key way to get yourself towards that point of butterfly, right? You've just got to consistently be doing the things that are important. It's kind of boring, once you figure out what you need to do, but it's how you get there. So just take one thing from today, highlight it, circle it, write it down, put it on your to-do list, and do that thing, whether it's today, this week, this month, depending on how big it is, if it needs to be broken down into smaller bits. My hope is that when you watch these classes, when you participate, you're not just taking a bunch of notes and like getting some good information and then putting it in a drawer, but that you're actually applying it. That's how you're going to make headway. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for coming and participating. I hope you guys have an awesome week. Remember, whatever happens with this election, life goes on. You have control over a lot of other things, and you have plenty other things to focus on. So don't get too caught up in all the drama unless you enjoy that sort of thing. There's many other things you can do with your week. And I know that I will be focusing on work to keep myself distracted, and lots of gratitude. But I do hope that you put these into practice. And if you are interested in having an accountability call with me, it's a 20-minute call. We check in to see where you're at with your goals, whether it's developing them or making headway towards them or breaking them down into practice. That's what I'm here for. I'm your accountability coach. If you have questions about the process and systems, going over an offer to purchase, that sort of thing, the helpline is your key. That's Andy and Steph. If you have just want to get some more details on things, use the video catalog. There's all kinds of good stuff in there. And the Facebook group is an excellent resource as well. So you've got some good places to tap into. And if you do want to set up a time with me, text me. I'll throw my phone number up on the screen again, but that's the way to best get a hold of me, to set up an accountability call. And I'm going to type that in right now, 414-534-7982. Cool. All right, everyone. Have an awesome rest of your day. Have an awesome week. And don't forget, just take one thing and put it into practice. It's those little steps that get you towards greatness. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.